Thank you guys so much for holding it down in the back for us. I'm here with the man himself, MossMan, here to play some Tekken for us tonight. I cannot be more excited. We've not seen Tekken yet here on the broadcast this year. Saw you last semester on the Nina. Is there going to be any changes with some of the meta shifts we've seen in Tekken over break, or is it going to be more of the same from you tonight, MossMan?
Probably more of the same. Nina got nerfed a little bit here and there. Nina's still really good. As for everyone else, as long as Jin gets nerfed, pretty much everything else I feel is like really good. It's pretty similar than what we to what we saw last semester. Obviously, Clive is now in.
Hi, MossMan. I'm sure you'll do great. Do you have any final words for the audience before you start tonight?
Just shout out Grandma.
Shout out Grandma, indeed. Back to you guys in the booth.
Great shout out to Grandma, of course. Great interview as well. How that opponent does need to deal with that. That change in mindset will decide whether or not I'm going to be able to get a whiff punish on this giant sword.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to whiff on Moss's like early swing, and then it's going to be Moss's turn again to just continue his momentum, keep building that damage, and just keep your opponent in that block stun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like you mentioned, Clive has this huge sword that kind of comes out at different angles, at different...
And so you can only afford so many mistakes. Yes, these series do go upwards of anywhere between 3 to 5 matches in a round, but like, or rounds in a match, excuse me. But like, that's crazy to think about just how quickly you can melt in this sort of game.
Yeah, and look at...
You're right, exactly. Like, you gotta take the time to understand, okay, this, like, I shouldn't be swinging back here. Unless your opponent is going for something crazy. They know a move is plus, and they say,
we're going to go all in immediately. We're going to use all of our damage. We're going to go for these huge, big hits immediately. Or you can kind of look at your heat as a way to, you know, use it for a finisher. Like, combo base is all it is. This game is all about just getting that combo right into the wall. But Moss does a great job getting out of that grab and out of the corner now. Ariza's in the corner.
Yeah, Reina. Immediate Reina means that MossMan is now on the back foot.
Yeah, and again, now we have the heat rage that MossMan might try to use here. It gets blocked, which is a good block by Reina.
As getting a couple of good initial momentum, it is crazy what this Reina has been able to pull off, but at the same time, a very good low into the combo, catching Moss. I always assumed that the low parry was just the go-to for everyone. Whatever setup this Reina has going is crazy, and they're getting a lot of value off of it. A couple more and it doesn't connect, meaning that Reina will get a little bit of that gray health back and eat a solid amount of damage in response.
Yeah, MossMan was so close now. He cannot get flushed.
Going down fast.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, all these grabs keep coming out from Moss. If one of them hits, he can keep going with it. But the Reina's doing a great job of countering them every single time.
Ooh. As a couple more good hits does mean that the health is starting to equalize, but another grab means that Reina is just building up the damage.
Yeah, I mean, we have to watch the rage art. Unfortunately, will not. MossMan kind of caught him, saw that jump, immediately sent it out. Let's see what he does here.
Yeah, this would be a very strong round to get back in his favor, but another one. Crazy moves and just how much chip damage it's dealing on this Reina. A couple of good hits. Reina no longer having heat, but MossMan caught up against the wall does meet of this. I do think the Reina was doing some level of conditioning against Moss to try and get Moss to go for these grabs in these situations. The final step of that heat to try and get a good hit in instead is going to eat a good amount of damage, does get hit up against the wall, and Reina going for the into Nina's hands, but the heat dash is able to reverse it. A couple of good hits does offer a lot of value, but it does mean that the Reina
going. So if MossMan can stop after these combos and stop looking for a grab, maybe he can start taking some rounds more successfully.
I mean, and that's a big factor of this. Reina doing this sort of heat setup where the Reina is going for these sort of low health sweeps is getting a lot of damage. MossMan trying to use the Rage Art, trying to call out the Reina, who's been playing such... Oh, this one is different. This stage is a very... Oh, actually, that is a good question. This stage is relatively new and kind of crazy. Oh my goodness. Against the wall, but is able to use that heat dash to sort of back away. Moss activating heat, trying to go for a grab. Reina able to break out. Moss going for a very hard power crush hit.
In the heat, looking for something, but this Reyna just kind of has him downloaded at this point.
Yeah, it's a lot of good hits, and MossMan again trying to just use that rage art, feeling like Reyna is hitting these.
I was very curious is that Moss kind of changed his style of play in those first 2 rounds on the Nina. Usually when I see him play that, he starts with that heat crush with the big dash attack into something, and he started with jabs a lot. Now we see Moss back on the Nina, I believe.
And just because you are on the ground, you can get crazy value off of it. We do see the jump from the Fang. Does get called out by MossMan, and he is able to get the first round of grabs this time around. Does go for the low sweep, get a couple of advantage state here. Does get this Fang up against the wall. Does get another good hit. Seeing a lot more backdash than we did see from even the Tekken god we saw earlier.
Right, yeah, I mean, that was a great opener from the Fang, but Moss got one grab up and was almost able to take the
Fang, but it will deal a solid chunk of damage as Fang goes into a rage art state of his own.
Yeah, and I want to hit on some. No, the Fang's on the back foot.
Yeah, and we do see Fang go for just a little bit too much, and MossMan is on a pixel of health and does get the rage art off. This is going to do a ton of damage. I don't know if it KOs, but it is going to do a lot.
Yeah, and Moss gets back some of that great health, so he kind of has a bit of a buffer here, and he does manage to take.
We're noticing he's playing much more patient this time around. He's not going for those crazy openers. Instead, is playing this sort of game where he's reacting to what Moss is throwing into an awkward spot close to that wall. That wall should be destructible, which means we may see a setup there. Moss going for the setup where he goes for the power crush. Both players swinging at each other. Back into that shoulder bash. It should be offering crazy value, but this time around, because MossMan has found just a couple of whiffs, we will see Fang close out this crazy combos out of this. We are going to see just true regular Tekken from this point forward. Rage art on Fang. We haven't seen him use it yet, and the aggressive call out from MossMan, though eventually something similar to what we saw round 1.
And Moss should be very comfortable at this point. He got the opening hit, which is what he did all of last semester every single time. But unfortunately, the Fang
does break out of the grab and uses the dash back to get a solid amount of damage going as MossMan is up against the wall.
Yeah, the wall is your enemy, Moss. You have to get out.
He went for an extra hit. That's a hit too many, my friend. MossMan goes for the rage art, and I believe this should KO. Yes, it does, which it can be blocked, but it's a very real tool in these sorts of games. You have to be careful with it. So we do see Fang doing a really good job. Once we are going to see an answer where he's stopping the Fang from going for these sort of dash back punishes. I'm expecting to see a little bit more of the low sweep. Instead, Moss for that sort of setup. I'm expecting to see potentially a little bit more slides out of MossMan, but for now, both players are up against the wall. MossMan able to use the power crush to beat out the heat and
slam him through the wall or through the ground. That can keep your combo going, but it's looking like the Fang just wants to keep him in this wall and keep going with this combo. It's absolutely insane. Into a perfect. That was
crazy combos, but in return, MossMan able to get the grab connected. Goes for a little bit of chip damage on the ground. And Fang, again, using that move, which seems to beat out the block.
Around here, just constantly swinging back and forth. We see a bunch of backsteps, but Moss was able to get a grab off. It should be the end of the round.
Yeah. Fang was unable to break out of the entire grab sequence. There were multiple points throughout all of that you are able to break out. If you know the correct one, turn did get a good amount of momentum on the Fang, but Fang returns it with another shoulder bash of his own. And again, that block sort of break move. Those should grab, but not much more. Using the low sweep, I imagine, to call out the power crush of the shoulder bash. Here comes a grab. One good hit into another.
He's very, very comfortable with it. But now Fang gets a chance to play. He has the controller. Let's see what he can do with it.
Yeah, we do see sort of more of this setup with the shoulder bashes and the symbol, but instead, for now, this does mean Fang has a pretty good lead, is able to get a couple more good hits, and does get a perfect to close GC, but that does still mean that MossMan does walk away victorious with a 3-2 victory up against the Shaman King, I believe was the name, this Fang player, who was very good at this game.
And shout out Grandma, obviously, always. That's Moss's #1 catchphrase. We're going to steal it for today. Shout out Grandma.